I think there's a little less enthusiasm this time than there was the first time around. All right, so kick it off.
Are we calling this episode 1?
Quick. Yeah, you put it all.
Still says pilot.
Well, we need to buy a new one. Like, does it look like we're on a budget here?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Our makeup budget was even big. Yes, test. 1, 2.
He's testing.
Unique New York. I have a lot of pressure not to mess this one up. Ready? What's up? God, see, now you're laughing. That was you. That was not me. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Planning Desk Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Burmeister, joined by my co-host, Tony Stich, Mr. Purple. How you doing today, man?
Good, man. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing well. Thanks for doing this today. Super excited. Why don't we get this out of the way first? Why another FinTech podcast? And let's give the listeners a little bit of a taste of what Season 1 has in store.
Sure. So that's a great question because, with this pandemic, we've seen a significant surge in podcasts. So, but our goal is to be different here. We're well connected in the media and in the industry, and we thought we'd do something a little different, a little bit of everything, a little bit of advisor practice management, a little bit of technology reviews. We're gonna have guests on, and it's really gonna give you kind of I would call it almost like a in real time assessment of the industry, maybe where technology is going, where events are going. Just what people are doing and working on. So it'd definitely be a different taste, right? And there are some very respectable podcasts out there that we listen to on a weekly basis, and hopefully we can fit in that. But yeah, that's the spirit, that's the goal of the Planning Desk, is just to take on a different perspective and provide a little bit more actionable items for these advisors as they navigate the complexities of this industry.
Yeah, and also just emerging from the pandemic and how I think things are going to start to either, change back, but just there'll still be a lot of change in the industry that people are going to have to navigate through. So excited to kind of, again, deliver a little bit of our take on that in real time, like you said, with some really good guest insights, really good tech showcases. I'm pretty excited about this. I was admittedly a little skeptical when you approached me about this, as I often am with your ideas, but I've really warmed up to this. So yeah, lots to come.
So well documented. It was my idea.
Yes.
Maybe Guthrie it was your idea, Guthrie. But regardless, we're excited. We're excited to do this. We have some really awesome guests lined up, and being one of the essentially the inaugural episode. I think the topics we're going to cover today are really exciting. For different reasons, and for advisors, I think these are very, very topical, timely. Obviously, what's happened in the market as of late with GameStop and AMC and Reddit. We're going to cover that a little bit and how an advisor manages a client through that.
Yep.
And then we're going to dive into an exciting topic around conferences.
Yes, very exciting.
In person, maybe even hugging or shaking hands.
Pounding, elbow bumping.
Elbow bump thing. So super excited about that. So we're going to give our perspective on that, and then hopefully throughout the podcast and even in this season, you'll kind of learn more about you and myself.
Yep.
And we do have a episode that might go live, sometime in the future around more of that rough cut with the intros. But if not, you'll learn more about us and our perspective and why this is valuable. But yeah, super excited. So when we get back from the break, we'll dive right into this whole GameStop thing. I'm gonna kind of quiz you, drill you on how do advisors manage clients through this?
Yep.
How do they facilitate that desire while still controlling that client through this process. So when we get back, we're going to talk GameStop and all things Reddit craziness here on the Planning Desk Podcast.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. I'm actually going to check my portfolio before we start. All right, GameStop. When you think about, what happened over the last few weeks, with Wall Street Bets, Reddit, all of these crazy meme stocks, and recently this congressional hearing.
Yeah.
Just absolutely bizarre. And I think the funniest part about this whole thing was the amount of text messages that I got personally on, are you in on this? Are you what's your position? And I was
almost assuming that we're in it, right?
Like, hey, hey, are you in on this too?
How much money did you lose?
Like my brother-in-law, invested in the wrong AMC, so that just goes to show, like. But anyways, so that's Acme, right? So that's a good. I think what's really important here, as trying to appeal to the advisors and really this investor side of the industry. How do you manage that? As an advisor, how do you manage the constant chatter of this stuff? Because this is only going to increase, right? That everyone suggests that GameStop was just the beginning of what we're going to see as being a much more wild and provocative stock market for investors, right?
A lot of fad investing.
Right. So with that being said, as an advisor, put on your advisor hat.
Sure.
How do you manage that?
Well, I think taking a step back is probably a good place to start, because I think from the outset of a relationship with a client, I think it's important to really outline the rules of engagement for the entire relationship. There's a lot of paperwork involved with onboarding a client, but I think it's also really important to have sort of a document that lays out kind of a mutual understanding of how we're going to approach investing. So clients need to know from advisors that, you're going to see things on TV, you're going to read about things. I'm sure you got a guy that's going to call you and say, I got a sure thing, definitely going to pay off big. But as an advisor, I think it's important to point out from the outset that you're in this for the long haul. It's the advisor's job to see from the top of the top of the perch, forest from the trees. All of those analogies are certainly in play here. But so having said that, I don't think advisors really have much of an obligation whatsoever to entertain these one-off questions about fad stocks or any kind of individual security when it's really their job to professionally manage your wealth.
I think there's the point, though. The point is, I think as an advisor, you need to get to the relationship level where you can say, knock it off.
Right.
Right? This does not fit into our investment thesis. This is a long-term play here. Do not get caught up in that. But I do think there is a really good concept that we had talked about a while back around this play money concept.
Yes.
Around so as an advisor, how can you kind of scratch that itch for these clients?
Yeah, these are not mutually exclusive things whatsoever. There's nothing that says you can't have a long-term financial plan with longer-term goals, but as a hobby, play in the market. And I think what an advisor can really do is help you identify what's a responsible amount of money to dedicate to this hobby. Not necessarily how to deploy that money, because that's, again, not necessarily the advisor's responsibility, but to give you a sense of kind of what your guardrails are for making these investments. And then if they go up, great. Now your hobby just became a little bit bigger. If not, maybe you got to make a decision whether to continue that hobby or save up to start another hobby. So I think that's a really good conversation as well. And you mentioned investment thesis. That's another great question that advisors can ask clients, because when clients come with something they read on Reddit or wherever, if an advisor asks, what's your thesis on this? A lot of clients aren't going to be able to answer that and say, well, thesis, like I read about it on Reddit, like everybody's doing it. So it's a great way to kind of remind your clients sort of the disciplined approach that you take to analyzing investments, looking at alternatives, looking at the macro level as opposed to what happened over the last week or what's going to happen next week. So all really good questions, but again, you can prevent a lot of these difficult conversations or awkward conversations if you do a good job outlining that at the outset of the relationship.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, Tom. Right? So I'm a long-term investor. That's my mindset. I'm kind of risk averse, believe it or not, for as much as I spend money on dumb things. I'm a risk averse type of investor. But I'm not gonna lie. Like
it's tempting.
The FOMO I had, watching some of these guys make stupid money overnight, it was very hard for me. And I would go to FinTwitter, Twitter, that kind of advisor population on Twitter, and even guys like Antonelli, who we both love dearly, even he said, I'm kind of having FOMO, and he's like the penultimate long-term pragmatic investor, right? So how do you manage that though? How do you manage? Okay, investing aside, investment thesis aside, how do you manage maybe the communication approach you should be taking to that FOMO kind of client? How do you manage that whole process?
Well, FOMO is an emotion at its core, right? So I think tying that to your investment thesis. So your investment thesis is an emotion, or if your clients are having emotional triggers that feel like they want to get involved in this, or they're missing out on something, I think that's exactly the lesson that I think a lot of people probably learned, or a lot of people will find value in learning is that those are not the type of things that professional investors look at when they're making that type of decision. So,
here's a point. And as an advisor, I think we need to do this more to, even at the beginning of the onset of a relationship, remind them that I'm more of a behavioral coach. Right? Like, yes, I'll put your investments in the proper places. I'll create a plan with goals for you. I will lay that all out for you, right? But I cannot make you do certain things.
Right.
I cannot control your FOMO. I cannot make sure you're saving in the 529. There's certain things I cannot do. Dietitian. But yeah, exactly. But it's that behavioral coaching concept, and you need to lay that out up front. Because when you do that, people start to be like, okay, I should call him, right, or her. And there's those lame commercials where the financial advisor is invited to the wedding. But as lame as those are, right, the concept there is you become part of the life of your clients, which means managing behaviors, managing, just talking with them at any given time, right? And obviously with all forms of communication, it's just being there, being present, right? Being present.
I think client communication is really big on this too. A lot of advisors do some form of newsletter or something like that, but just because you're not recommending a given strategy or you're not getting involved in a lot of these fads, it doesn't mean that you can't address those in your communications to your clients. Say, here's why we didn't do this, or here's why this is not such a great idea, or here's why you're not going to see this pop up in your portfolio. And then a lot of people aren't going to ask their advisors. There's only a small part of the population that's going to go to their advisor and ask about this. But a lot of people are wondering about it. We're all seeing about it, reading about it. So if you can proactively kind of get in front of those things, because there's, like you said, GameStop is far from the end of this. So be able to get in front of that and kind of educate people that weren't even involved in the FOMO aspect of this, I think is huge for the long term as well.
I think that's a very good point. And it's even defining terms.
Right.
Like, because if you can start to define terms for someone and kind of explain to them, like, hey, this looks great, like this flash in the pan looks great, but if you start defining terms, people start to realize, okay, this is not where I belong. And fast money is not the kind of money that we're in this business to make. Right? We're just not. And I always love... I'll end with this. I love those hunch phone calls. I got this. Guy on the inside.
Sure thing.
Who said Amazon's going to buy UPS. And I'm like, okay, so if that's true, are you the first person to know that? Or is the stock already priced accordingly? And then so you need to remind those people. But that is something that I think advisors need to manage, right? And kind of really tighten up that process, because this is going to happen. And it's going to happen more frequently. It's going to happen more frequently. And I think in future episodes, we're going to address another elephant in the room, which is alternative investments, right? Not just cryptocurrencies, but anything else from
headliner type things,
right? Exactly, art, right, or Jordans, right? Like, I think there's going to be a shift that advisors need to prepare for around this type of stuff: meme stocks, alternative investments, and that's why it's so important that as advisors we get together, and we meet on an annual or frequently to work together to kind of share ideas and concepts and learn about best practices. So when we get back, I'm really excited about this topic, because I have, I told Brian McLaughlin of Redtail that I will eat off the floor of LaGuardia the moment I can fly again.
It's much cleaner now.
It's much cleaner. So when we get back, we're going to talk about the excitement around the potential for in-person FinTech and advisor conferences in the back half of 2021. Super exciting for us both, right? We're road warriors by heart, but we need to get back together. We need to talk about alternative assets. We need to talk about all that fun stuff. So with that being said, when we get back from the break, we'll talk FinTech conferences coming up in 2021.
So, Tony, we've now reached a point where it's actually been a full calendar year since we've been to our last FinTech conference, which for me, I believe was WellStack. I don't know what yours was, but that actually makes it even more exciting to be talking about our next topic here, which is the potential for in-person FinTech conferences in the back half of 2021. So let's tell viewers a little bit about what to expect, who's announced already, our thoughts on that, and then really just kind of spread the word and share the excitement about the potential of being on the road again.
Yeah, I think, in the spirit of the Planning Desk podcast and our mission, it's really to help those advisors do better with their practice, right? Practice management, but also just understanding the industry and what's going to happen. And so, yeah, super excited. We work for NaviPlan, right? It's a poorly kept secret on this podcast. But so we have all of the prospectuses from the upcoming events.
Right.
And actually, we have probably more between 6 and 10, that are trying to objectively have in-persons in the back half of 2021. But there are 4 that have so far kind of verbalized or said, hey, something's coming. And I think it's exciting, right? The idea of it's very exciting because there's nothing better than that concept of mind share and thought leadership and kind of trying to drive your practice forward through these events and just quite frankly the networking.
Right.
So what do we got here? We got Carson Excel.
Yep.
No dates. I think we might have dates, but the market doesn't have dates. We have T3.
Yep.
We have Orion, their Ascent, and then we have Fearless Invest, and that's from
a great start.
Yeah, Great Guys at Risk Alive. So 4 powerhouse events. Which one are you most excited for, Tom?
Well, I'm going to say, I think just because my first FinTech conference ever was T3. My first time subsequent to that presenting was at T3. Had standing room only. That's right. So that's always going to have a soft spot for me at Vegas. Who doesn't love Vegas? But I mean, all of them are a blast for a lot of different reasons. Tough choice though. You gotta pick.
Okay, so
be careful now.
I don't want to upset Ron or Aaron or Joel or Eric. So I don't know if you know this, but T3 is he published the dates. Joel published the dates. I think it's the end of September.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's September 27th through October 1st. It's going to be in Dallas again.
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember,
what happened there again?
There was a rumor that Vanilla Ice himself showed up, and he did, and it was actually we blew the roof off a bowling alley.
Right.
But I mean, so with T3, he has a very clear objective.
Yep.
Joel Bruckenstein does. He says, "I'm going to be the reveal party for all tech.
Mm-hmm.
If you want technology, if you want to show your roadmap or enhancement or new software, you got to go to T3."
Yep.
So that's really the purpose of T3. But I, quite frankly, am excited. I have to admit, Jamie Hopkins is going to love hearing this. I'm excited for Carson Excel.
Yeah.
It's going to be, what they do with Carson Excel is they take the energy level up 10 times,
mm-hmm.
right? They are you are going in there, you're super excited. Jamie's going to run a great show. It's going to be a massive event. Ron's, of course, Ron and his team, it's going to be just so fantastic.
Yep.
And so I'm excited about that one. And, full disclosure, it's at the Cosmopolitan in Vegas, my favorite spot in Vegas. If I were to have one, I have kids and everything. And then, you have Kelly doing the Orion conference, Ascent, sometime in the fall as well. They're committed to that one.
Yep.
That's going to be like your all-encompassing
Yep.
conference, really just practice management, technology. It's really going to be one of those, major shows for that diversity of information. And then finally, Aaron Klein in Fearless Investing is another one, which would be very exciting, right? Because he's got that hype effect to him. He brings in these really awesome speakers, and he's just trying to change the way people interact. And I think one of the most exciting parts about Fearless for me is that, he's one of their goals is to kind of demonstrate use cases around the technology platform that they offer and how you can be better at your practice, right? So those are the 4 big ones that have announced, and they're all going to be exciting. They're all going to be bunched up in Q3. We're going to hopefully go to all of them. It's so exciting, and quite frankly, I think it's something to look for. And the cool part about Fearless that I wanted to bring up, they have the quote-unquote best refund policy for 2021. Like literally, you pay now. If you don't feel comfortable at the last minute or whatever, I mean, read the details on their website, but it's pretty much you can get your money back. So thinking of those 4, right? We talked about Excel, practice management, T3 technology, Orion kind of holistic, Fearless kind of use case style. What should an advisor do planning for conferences, at the conference, and kind of takeaway? Yeah,
well, we talked about in the last segment kind of the advisor being the long-term coach, right, or setting long-term goals. And I think when you look at a given conference season, granted, in other years you had a lot more choices, but even in a truncated year like this, it's important to have goals and look at all of the conferences that are going to be out there. Not only just where they are, but what you want to get out of them, and you got to understand what you want to get out of them before you go in. The ROI is not going to come to you. So there's great networking opportunities for sure. Great content, great presentations, great breakout sessions, great keynote sessions. But it's important to understand what you want to get out of it so that you can justify the expense, justify taking time away from your practice to kind of work on your own practice and learn more about whether it's given topics in the industry, practice management. All of those great things are covered at most of these conferences. So if when we see people with mediocre reviews of conferences, it seems like it's mostly because they didn't have an objective going in and they kind of expected everything to find them, right?
Right, and it's not just about CE credits.
Right. In the business versus on the business. That's right.
That's one of those corporate platitudes, but it's so applicable. It's like, just take time out.
Right.
Time out. Stop. And if CE credits are your objective, there's a lot of conferences that offer that. But if technology and kind of attracting the next generation of advisors to your practice, you want to look at technology. If it is just practice management, I got in trouble for saying this on a video. I think it was Investment News, and I didn't get in trouble, but a few advisors said, "Hey, Tony," but I said advisors they're not necessarily good at running their business.
Oh, yeah.
They're good at running advice. So you need to, when you look at Carson, what they're doing with their coaching program, sometimes you need a coach.
Yeah.
You need to be told how to run your front office, your back office, because that's just going to help you be better. So garbage in, garbage out, that's what we say about events. Yep. It's really about how can you maximize the value of an event, and take some time for yourself.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with one night, if you're in Arizona or Florida, just taking some time for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit of these events too, is really maximizing that time, getting back to the office. And I remember you talking about, and I like this concept too, is looking at the event schedule, and picking 1, 2, or 3 events that are really going to suit your needs, or what, when we talked about this. I just wrote an article, and I think it was ThinkAdvisor, on planning your business for 2021. That's part of it. Like, you should create goals for your business. You should create goals for yourself.
Yep.
Like, what is your strategy? And then look at the events to say, my goal this year is to enhance my tech stack. My goal this year is to be a better business owner.
Right.
Right? And then you look at the events to help you meet those needs. So that's the exciting part about FinTech events, and hopefully we see a bit more. But I do think, just to end the topic, I think with advisors and taking everything away, what I think is, I feel comfortable saying this. Everyone's going to try very hard to manage these events as best as possible, to make it safe and comfortable for advisors. So that's our goal, and I think that's what you're going to see at all of these events. But make sure you look at those refund policies. Make sure you look at travel and restrictions, because that'll be so important. But yeah, the big takeaway is there, right? Events and what kind of goals you have set for them. It's planning your year, planning your schedule, planning your budget. And quite frankly, garbage in, garbage out. It's your mindset going in is what you're going to take out of these conferences. So super excited. I cannot wait to spend way too much money on a cocktail at the airport.
Already planning his outfits, I'm sure, for the first.
I don't know if I could tie a tie.
Yeah, I wondered about that too the other day, actually.
But I have purple. How many purple clip-on ties? You know what? The ascot thing might actually happen this year for me. I've been challenged on that before, but purple ascot.
So, Tony, we managed to make it to the end of episode 1 here, which frankly I didn't know if that would ever happen. So, how do you end a podcast? I hadn't really thought about that.
Well, first of all, I was concerned about our artistic differences.
Yeah.
I thought we'd never even get episode 1 published. I almost regretted pushing out that teaser. But yeah, what do you do at the end of a podcast? What do you say? You say, smash the like button. Is that what the hip kids say?
Yeah.
Smash and subscribe.
Tell your friends.
Yeah. Smash and subscribe. Follow us all on Twitter. We have a Planning Desk handle on Twitter. You got a Twitter handle. I do as well. Follow us there. Tweet us some questions. Who do you want to see?
Yep.
Right? Who do you want to? We have some great speakers lined up. We have, I can't wait for these technology showcase segments. I think everyone's going to like what we're thinking about doing here. But if you want to know about a certain technology, as long as it's not a competitor to NaviPlan, we'd probably have them on. Well,
right.
Maybe. You never know. But yeah, definitely have some speakers and stuff. So follow us there. Bring out some questions. We're super excited for this year. We think it'll be fun. Hopefully it's worthwhile. Thank you all for joining us on the first episode of many on the Planning Desk podcast.
Planning Desk out. See you next time.
Planning Desk out. See you next time. Peace.
Yeah.